Taped from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
And I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
Hey, Darren, how's it going?
I'm doing well. It's going good. Wrapping up summer, and we're wrapping up summer with, we got a guest on this episode. We got a guest, John.
We do. We got a guest. The movie we're covering this week, it's so big. It's such a big thing. It was too big for the two of us to cover it by ourselves. So that's right. we have back our friend Mr. Ken Krantz. Hey, Ken.
What's going on, guys?
How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, always nice to have you. Like, what was the last thing we did together? Did we do?
It was Bordello of Blood.
Bordello of Blood. Yes, we had lots of fun deconstructing Bordello of Blood.
Oh boy!
Check that episode out if you haven't heard it already.
Don't check out the movie. Check out the episode we did about the movie.
Yeah. I mean, that'll give you the gist.
Yeah. So we decided to make it up to Ken by having him on a podcast about a good movie this time. We're talking about the big blockbuster hit Caddyshack.
Caddyshack with Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Ted Knight, Rodney Dangerfield, people.
Other people were in it. Yeah, this film came out July 25th, 1980. This was the first film directed by the late, great Harold Ramis, written by the late, great Harold Ramis, the late, great Doug Kenney, and the great Brian Doyle Murray. He's not late of this recording.
Yes.
And had a budget of between $4 to $6 million. I'm assuming they're adjusting for cocaine in that budget.
Yeah. Probably a full $1 million went towards cocaine, from what I understand.
If I had to guess, it would be like a Blues Brothers worth of cocaine.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah.
But it was a huge hit. It made $60 million. It was a big old blockbuster hit. And this film is still considered by many to be a comedy classic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you guys think of this movie? What is your history with this movie? Like, how did you come to discover this movie? I think we're all like a little too young to have seen this in theaters when it was out. I mean, I would have been like 8 when it came out.
Yeah, I was like 3, so I definitely didn't see this in the theaters. But like, growing up, I've always heard of the lore of Caddyshack and how, kind of much like Animal House, which we've covered on this podcast. It's one of those comedy films that you keep hearing from everybody. Oh, if you're into comedies, if you're into SNL, you need to see Caddyshack. It's like a must-see comedy movie. So I watched it and I did like it. I mean, I don't know if it's like as amazing as people say it was, but it definitely had like a very loose, raw, kind of almost anarchistic feel to it that I gravitated towards. I'd say. Ken,
what about you?
Yeah, this was a big movie for me growing up. I had I grew up with older brothers in the house. So at a pretty young age, they had me watching R-rated movies.
Ooh.
Yeah, while I was too young to see it in the theater, we were one of the first families I knew that got HBO, and this was one of the movies that was always on HBO. And I can't remember if I saw this or Meatballs first, but whichever one, like at the age of like 5 or 6 or 7, I was like, oh, Bill Murray's my favorite actor. That still happens.
Yeah.
But I loved this is a movie as a kid I probably saw hundreds of times, and it was at least growing up, it was one of the most quotable movies. I'm actually surprised it's taken you guys this long to get around to it.
Yeah,
we just I don't know. We just hadn't gotten to it before now.
Yeah, it's one of those things like the way we work here at the SNL Nerds podcast, we're just kind of whatever you think we're gonna do, we don't do. We like to do the unexpected and just kind of go at a loosey goosey pace, like much like this movie. And it's funny that you said that about Bill Murray because I mean, according to IMDb, like his role was originally supposed to be like more of a like a silent character, like a Harpo Marx. But like as the filming of the shoot went on, like his kind of character kind of bloomed and blossomed, and like he was or he was sort of urged to do more sort of improv on the set and kind of improv his lines a lot. Like I think he was still doing SNL when this thing was when they were filming this thing, but because they liked his character so much, they just had to fly him down. This whole thing was shot in Florida. They flew him down to like do more and more stuff. He ended up shooting like 6 days on this film, including the one scene that he's in with Chevy Chase, which I don't know. I like to think maybe I don't know if tensions were high by then because like I know Bill and Chevy have a bit of a history, we'll say.
They've had some run-ins. Like the legend is that they got into a fist fight or a near fist fight, like just minutes before the show when Chevy came back to host, and that's when Bill dropped the all-time insult "medium talent," which I just think sums up Chevy Chase so well.
Yeah, it's pretty much. It is very telling that this is the only film that the two of them have ever been in together. Where it's like,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and they share all of one scene, which they just added when they realized, oh, hey, the two biggest stars in this thing, we don't have them in a scene together. We should probably do that. So,
yeah, very much so. And I mean, of course, you have the late great Rodney Dangerfield. This is like the first big film he's ever acted in, and yeah, he really steals the show. And he basically kind of comes in. He's almost like a Groucho Marx type of character, where he just kind of busts in and makes fun of everybody and just kind of insults everybody, but it's kind of charming. Of course, like the big scene at the 4th of July dinner where he just farts at the table while eating, and it's like, oh, did somebody step on a duck in here? And everybody's like, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just learned when I was like reading the IMDb trivia for this that the original choice for the Rodney Dangerfield role was Don Rickles, and I could totally see Rickles in that role.
You could see that. I can see
Yeah,
that.
he would have been a good choice, but yeah, Rickles turned it down, and Dangerfield was like killing it. Then his stand up career was really big. He was on the Tonight Show all the time, so they got Dangerfield, and apparently Dangerfield said he did the movie at a loss because he had to cancel a month's worth of bookings in Vegas to do the movie. So he could have earned a lot more just staying in Vegas and headlining there.
Yeah, but I'm sure that that movie must have catapulted him into all of those other, once people saw that he can work in the movies.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's the movie that was the springboard to like Easy Money and Back to School.
Yeah, I'm sure we never would have seen those others if he hadn't done this one. And he was like Dangerfield was so inexperienced at the movies that like he didn't know what it meant when the director Harold Ramis called action. And like so Ramis just had to say like, "Okay, Rodney, do your bit," and then he'd go on and do his bit, and that's just what Ramis would say. He'd say action and then go, "Okay, Rodney, do your bit."
Oh, all right, there I go now.
Yeah, and then like when he was doing takes, Dangerfield said, "Hey, nobody's laughing at me. I'm bombing out here," and they had to explain to him, "Oh no, people aren't allowed to laugh because that would ruin the take." So,
oh, that makes sense, kid. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can get into I mean, there isn't much of a plot in this movie. I mean, it kind of follows this one kid, Danny Noonan, who is it sounds like he's like graduated from high school and he's looking to college, but he doesn't know if he wants to go to college. He's like a super poor kid from the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, and college is $8,000 a year. Oh my God!
There was a lot of that where it's just like, so like I think where Tony was talking to him about like a Coke costs like 50 cents now, and it's like I ain't paying 50 cents for no Coke. I was like, simpler times.
Yeah. I mean, this was still an era when I think you could work a summer job and then earn enough to pay for college.
Wow.
Or close to it, or a good chunk of it anyway.
Better times.
Yeah.
And but yeah. So it's like basically like him trying to figure his life out while he works as a caddy at Bushwood, which is like a high end country club. And but I don't know. There's not the story is like kind of more of like a bunch of kind of I guess like vignettes, kind of loosely
Yeah.
tied together. Because I mean, the film was inspired by Brian Doyle Murray, who used to work as a caddy when he was a teenager. His brother Bill and their brother John also were caddies, and uh, Harold Ramis was a caddy too when they were all teenagers. So it's like a lot of stuff that's in this movie is like them kind of remembering stuff that happened when they were caddies and like a lot of little characters they met along the way. Like I know the now infamous floating baby Ruth in the pool is something that happened to Brian Doyle Murray when he was like in high school or something like that. So it's like the movie is basically like kind of a bunch of little like memories of their caddy days. You know, almost like
Mhm.
Animal Shack was a bunch of memories of people's times in frats and colleges.
Animal Shack.
Animal Shack, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. We'll just we'll just play that where it lays.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I hope
Call this.
everyone's enjoying listening to this on the Radio Shack.
Yeah. Yeah. Calling this film episodic is being kind. Yeah. There's not much of a plot to this thing at all. Like there's a bit about like Danny's not sure if he wants to go to college, and then there's a caddy scholarship, and that he sort of kind of decides, oh, I guess I'll go for that, and he has there's a caddy tournament, but that doesn't really amount to anything. There's a bit where Danny and his girlfriend Maggie, where she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant," and then like two scenes later, she's like, "Oh, I'm not pregnant," and I'm like, "Well, what the
Yeah,
hell did we even do that for?"
yeah, because like I was wondering about that. Like, were they boyfriend and girlfriend, or were they just hooking up? Because it's kind of not like explained. Because like then we also get the scene where like Danny hooks up with the niece of the judge, Judge Smails.
Yeah, Lacey Underall.
Yeah, played by the great Ted Knight, and like, and then they hook up, and then yeah, like, so I was like, oh, are they like officially a thing, or they're just like fooling around for the summer? So
It's, I mean, it's like the late '70s, early '80s. I'm thinking people are just hooking up willy nilly, and
mm,
yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think it was more of like a summer fling. And
mm.
I'll
Summer
say
love.
this though, in the scene where he's laying in bed making out with Maggie, I've seen this
mhm.
movie a million times. Noticed, um, her feet are filthy dirty, and it
Uh,
made me wonder, like, was there not enough money for soap or water? And then I was looking around the film, and it's just there's just it's not like today. It's just a ton of regular looking people in this. Like Danny Noonan's like the teenage lead, and his teeth are all jacked up. Like this could never happen today.
yeah, like Noonan is basically like an average looking dude. I mean, he's not hideous, but he's alright. But yeah, he's no teen heartthrob. He's not gonna make the cover of a Tiger Beat anytime soon. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's it, I
Yeah,
don't know. This movie is strange. I gotta fess up. I don't like this movie very much. I don't.
wow.
Yeah, I don't think it's very good. It's like I like half of this movie. I like the stuff with Bill Murray and Rodney Dangerfield and Ted Knight. Ted Knight is freaking brilliant in the movie, and Chevy Chase. It's about as good as a Chevy Chase performance as you could ask for. He's still like he still comes off very smug,
Yeah,
but
that's his
but
wheelhouse.
he is funny. He is funny in the movie, and you can kind of understand his appeal and his charisma. But I'm not interested in any of the caddies. None of the caddies are interesting.
Yeah, I think that might be it. Like I'll agree with you there. Like
Yeah.
the whole like when Bill Murray and Chase and Knight and Dangerfield are on the
Hmm.
screen, that's when it's like, all right, now it's working. But like,
Yeah.
when they go into that sub story about the caddies, it's and like what you call it, like the niece and
Yeah.
the nephew of
Lacey.
Yeah, or even the grandson of the Judge Spalding. It's like, this kind of,
Yeah.
it's almost like a little meatballsy to me. Where it's like they should have gotten people with a little bit more sharper, comedic chops. I mean, there's a reason why they're not on the movie poster.
Well, exactly, and it's like in a film called Caddyshack, the caddy's not being interesting. That's a problem. And like when it's kind of like if you made Animal House and none of the deltas were interesting. I'm just like,
I actually, there was one caddy that I thought was interesting. I forget his name. It was like Nunzio or whatever, like
mhm.
the caddy, like the rival to Danny Noonan.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought he was kind of an interesting character that I would have liked to have seen more of.
Oh yeah, the Italian guy, Tony D'Annunzio.
yeah.
Yeah, he's like smoking cigarettes in every scene.
Yeah.
He's golfing wearing like Zeke Avericis, and like none of them dress for golf like Noonan does the tournament of clan.
Yeah. That's true. Like he was kind of interesting. I'll give you that. He has like like sleeveless tees. He's always
Hmm.
like playing golf in, and the fact that he's just like casually smoking. I mean, I guess it's the '70s, so I guess it's not that big a deal. But still,
Yeah.
his laissez-faire attitude about caddying does kind of give me a chuckle.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, apparently like the focus on the film was originally Danny and Tony, and then they kind of increased the parts of Bill Murray and all the other people, and that kind of reduced the parts of everybody else. And I'm just like, I can't imagine this movie centered on the two of them, at least not with this casting, because I'm just like Michael O'Keefe is okay, but he's never more than okay to me. I mean, he has his moments. I think one of the funniest moments is when early on he's out golfing with Ty Webb, Chevy Chase's character, and Ty just says, "Do you do drugs, Danny?" And he just says, without any hesitation, "Every day," and it's like, good.
That's why I love this movie so much as a kid, because it was like all of the stuff that I knew my older brothers were doing. It
Hmm.
just seemed so cool to like a 10-year-old kid. Like this movie had like drugs and titties and cursing,
Hmm.
and it was just for a 10-year-old. It was like nothing was going to be funnier than that.
Maybe I was just too old when I first saw this film because I'm just like it's. I don't consider it anywhere near like the same league as like Animal House or Ghostbusters or any of those other like classic comedies that we've gotten from this group of people. Uh, so I don't know. Yeah, this movie it largely leaves me cold. Also because I'm not a golf fan. You know.
Ah, that's it. That's why. But I mean, like, it does still have the same themes of an Animal House, which I'm sure is in short to Doug Kenny wanting it to be in there. But the haves versus the have-nots, like the snobs. I think the tagline for this film was the snobs versus the slobs, and you do get some of that where
Right.
you have the snooty people getting taken down a peg by the lower class bums of the world.
Yeah. I mean, you got Rodney Dangerfield as L. Uh, Cervic.
Yeah, I never even knew his name. I've seen that movie 1,000 times, and I never bothered to
He,
learn his character's
he's just
name.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, why even bother giving him a name? But yeah, he's a guy who's like in construction. They apply a couple times that he's kind of mobbed up, um,
Yeah.
and he's just joined the club, and that's outraging the stuck up people like Judge Schmales, uh, Ted Knight's character. Who I think Ted Knight is freaking brilliant in this movie. I mean, he's so he's so it's such a big performance, but he's not really over the top, and he just modulated that really well. I'm really impressed with him.
Yeah.
When I was a kid watching that movie, it was like Bill Murray and Chevy Chase. That to me was the reason to watch the movie, because they
Right.
were on SNL. They were the biggest stars, and like I always thought of it as their movie. And then as I got older, I was like, oh no, this is Rodney's movie. Like Rodney steals all the scenes. And then I was telling John offline before we started that I hadn't watched the movie beginning to end since college. So I
Yeah.
did that yesterday for the first time, and 20 something years. And watching it, I was like, oh no, this is like Ted Knight stole this whole movie. Like this was Ted
Yeah.
Knight's movie.
Right.
He's brilliant in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Ted Knight is brilliant. I mean, and apparently he was kind of like the odd guy out because he wasn't like an improviser the way that Murray and Chase and I think even Dangerfield were. So he was like I think a little flustered by all the improvisation going on around him, which I guess only added to his character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it helped. I'm sure it helped add to the anger.
Yeah. Like, I mean, one of the funniest lines I thought was like during the dinner when, Rodney's just coming in being Rodney, and then he's, razzing the judge, and at one point he grabs the judge's wife and dances with her. And he says, "Hey, sweetheart, you're really something. How would you like to make $14 the hard way?" Like,
Yeah.
that line kills me. It's like $14.
Yeah, I love the. Go ahead,
Back
Ken.
then, that was like $100.
That's good money. Then it's good money.
So it's a good offer. Yeah, I mean, that's a reasonable competitive rate.
That's right.
I also love like when Danny the caddy is kind of hinting that he wants a shot at the caddy scholarship to the judge. He's like, oh well, I was wanting to go into law, but it doesn't look like I'll have the money for college. And the judge just without an ounce of sympathy just goes, well, the world needs ditch diggers too.
I still quote this movie on a fair. I just said that to a friend of mine who has been trying to pass the bar exam, and he's failed it like 4 times now.
Oh dear!
And when he sent me the text the last time that he failed it, I immediately text back, "Well, the world needs ditch diggers."
Nice.
Yeah.
I still quote this movie all the time.
Yeah, like so much of this movie is familiar to me. Like partly because like I used to listen to the Opie and Anthony show, and they used a ton of sound clips from this movie on their show. I mean, like so many things.
Yeah, no, it's a quotable movie. I think people still kind of quote the that one monologue that Bill Murray goes on about the Dalai Lama, about how we caddied for him, and so I got that going for me, which is nice. Like that whole little thing where he tells like this. I'm assuming it was all improvised, where he just tells a story about how he caddied for the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama kind of stiffed him and didn't give him a tip, and then the Dalai Lama said, "Well, I won't give you money, but when you die, you'll have total consciousness." And so I got that going for me, which is nice.
Which is nice, yeah. And also the other great Bill Murray improv scene where he's just fantasizing about winning the Masters, and he's just like swinging and chopping those flowers out of the ground, and it's like it looks like a miracle. It's a no. I mean, this movie would be much worse without Bill Murray in it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's why once they saw what he could do, like that's why they just kept adding his role and making it bigger and better. And to the credit of the film, it's like, oh wait, no, this needs more Bill. So like he was doing this film and SNL at the same time. So it's I'm glad they were able to make his role bigger because the film's definitely better with it.
Yeah, it's but again, just not much of a plot.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. Like, did you notice it too? Because like the girl that Noonan is hooking up, Maggie's, played by actress Sarah Holcomb, who I looked it up. She was actually in Animal House too.
That's right. Yeah, she plays the guy that what's the name of the Delta that hooks up with her?
Pinto.
Pinto. Yeah. And she is so different in this role. You wouldn't. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't realize it was the same actress.
Yeah. She's the one that hooks up with Pinto and passes out, half naked. But
I never knew that. I honestly just assumed that she did Caddyshack and never did anything else.
Well, I mean, she didn't do much else after Caddyshack. She like left movies after this, and apparently, yeah, she had some troubles. I've read that she was like diagnosed as schizophrenic after this film, and she's now like living, way outside of Hollywood under a different name. So yeah, so she's had her problems.
Yeah. But yeah, I also know she had like an Irish accent in this film, and I was like, why is that? Because like I looked it up, she's not from Ireland at all. She's like from Connecticut or
No.
something. So I was like, oh, that's a choice. That's an interesting choice.
Well, apparently in the original script, she was like an exchange student, but they just don't ever explain that in the movie. Like, I think this movie, like I read the original cut of it was like something like 4.5 hours.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, I don't know if that's because of all the improvising or if just they were having problems with the pacing or what, but it was a long script and it was longer after they shot it. So like after they had to like, cut it way down. So like to the point they were losing plot points. So, maybe that's why she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant." And then like 2 scenes later it's like, "Oh, I'm not pregnant. Everything's good." I'm just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, like
That was suspenseful.
yeah, like I
Well,
thought that would.
they show her dancing around in the middle of the night on the golf course in
Right.
the
In a
ugliest
nightgown.
nightgown. Yeah, it looked like somebody's mom lent her a nightgown.
Yeah. Yeah, like if
Like
you
what?
saw this thing on like Little House on the Prairie, it would not look out of place.
And she's dancing around, and then she turns, and like Danny's just standing there looking at her.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, how did he know to even be there?
Yeah. Well, and also like she never finds out that Danny cheats on her. He never admits that to her. There's never a scene where she finds out and gets mad and then
Yeah,
forgives him. It's just a thing that happens and then doesn't really lead to anything.
yeah. There's no real like consequences or like I guess like adversity in this in Danny's like what you call in storyline. It's just like kind of a bunch of stuff that happens. Really,
Hmm.
like there's no real like there's no real moment where he has to like rise to the occasion or like
Yeah,
be a better
Yeah.
man.
there's no arcs.
That's
There's no
that's the word arc. There's no arc.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anybody in this movie has a character arc, honestly.
Not really. Like we said before, like Murray's fantastic. Chevy Chase is good in it.
I like how you backed away from fantastic.
As I said it, I was like,
actually, I like Chevy Chase in this. So like
Yeah.
you could see why he was considered for a brief period anyway, like such a charming leading man.
I,
Yes.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, you watch this and you watch Fletch and you watch Vacation. You get it. You
Yeah,
get it.
I know.
But the problem is like I'm also aware of all the other baggage that he brings. I've heard so many offstage stories of Chevy Chase. It's tough for me to like 100% enjoy a Chevy Chase
Yeah,
performance. Just
yeah. I mean, that's why I backed it up a little bit because, like, oh, am I about to compliment Chevy Chase? Like, I will admit, Chevy Chase is good, even
yeah,
though he does have, like you said, all that baggage. So, but like, he does deliver. Like, you can't deny that.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
he does have some very funny moments in the movie, and he is very charismatic. And I mean, yeah, yeah.
okay. All right, but all right, guys, let's get to this. What were your thoughts on the gopher? The scenes with the gopher, which is something that Doug Kenny, one of the writers, was vehemently against. Like, I think if you listen to our old episode about the Doug Kenny Netflix biopic, Futile and Stupid Gesture, you can
Right.
there's that scene. I actually rewatched it before hopping on here, and like yeah,
Uh-huh.
that scene about like him, like the studio wanting to put that gopher in this film because like it'd be like a nice, cute little thing, and like he like hated the idea because it made it look like a kids movie, and like I kind of side with Doug Kenny on this, but it kind of works, but I don't know, it's a little too Elmer Fudd Bugs Bunny-ish. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on all those scenes with the gopher?
I mean, well, from what I understand, like part of the reason they added the gopher in was just to give the thing like a bit of a structure.
Oh,
um, and because they edited it down so much from that super long cut, they needed something in there so it just wasn't like a series of unrelated vignettes. And I mean, the gopher thing, at least it is a through line through the whole film, and it does play into the climax in a significant way because, like, Bill Murray is trying to get rid of this thing through the whole movie, and he finally starts using plastic explosives,
Yeah.
which helps decide the climactic tournament or the climactic match. Um, so I'm okay with it. I think, yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird. It doesn't have much else to do with anything else in the film, but neither does anything else in the film. So the thing's kind of a mess, you know?
Yeah, it makes as much sense as anything else in the
Yeah,
movie, I think. It's
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
funny, after watching it yesterday, I thought like this almost could have been like a cartoon, like an animated movie.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, very much. I guess I kind of see it as like one of those things where, like, the same way people get upset that the fact that Ewoks were in Return of the Jedi. Like maybe I think people kind of felt, or definitely Doug Kenny probably felt that way about the gopher in this movie, where it's like, oh, it's too cartoony, Looney
It
Tunes.
is weird because it's an R-rated movie with
hmm
nudity and drugs and cursing,
yeah,
and so it is weird that somebody felt that they had to like throw something real cutesy in there. But
yeah,
it works. It gives Bill Murray something to do through the whole movie.
That's
yeah.
true.
And it is. I when you said it was like a through line, and I said it reminded me of a cartoon. It almost reminded me of another Harold Ramis project, Heavy Metal, um,
Ooh,
where that that round, that dumb little glowing orb was the through line to all the vignettes.
I didn't realize that Harold Ramis had anything to do with the heavy metal movie. That's
He's in
interesting.
it. He was in it. He's a voice in it. Uh, John Candy was in. I want to say there was some other. But yeah, Howard Ramis was definitely in.
Okay. Wow. I did not know that any SCTV people were involved with that. That's cool. Hmm.
mm. Maybe we should do heavy metal for this podcast.
Well, I mean, Harold Ramis and John Candy, neither one of them was on SNL,
Oh,
but
that's right. Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
well,
Fair enough.
we'll look into it. Yeah.
Yes. Put on the back burner. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, this film, I think it does earn its status as like one of the great comedy films. Just on Murray and Chevy and Dangerfield's performances alone. I thought, like, I mean, they do give some strong performances, and I mean, there is a raw, like, loose feel to this whole film. I'd say,
Yeah.
like a lot of improvised parts. Like, I mean, according to what I read, the actress that played Lacey, Cindy Morgan, was
Yeah.
actually upset the fact that like Chevy Chase was doing so much improvising, in their scene when they were hooking up in the cabana, and
Yeah.
like how like that was throwing her off. And I think, I mean, like you said, like I think it adds to the to those scenes, like the same way that Dangerfield's improvising kind of throws off like Ted Knight, and
Yeah.
like for the characters that they play, it does add to the film, I thought.
Like Cindy Morgan, apparently she had a lot of things that upset her in this movie. I was reading that she was apparently basically pressured into doing the topless scene that she did,
Oh boy.
and and the and she was like really nervous about that. I mean, she, like, if given the choice, she wouldn't have wanted to do it. And like when they were shooting that, they I think Michael O'Keefe, who was in the scene with her, said, like, hey, let's have all the other guys uh, on set take their shirts off so she's more comfortable. But now she's just like a half naked woman in a scene with a bunch of half naked men. So
Yeah.
that didn't really make her put her more at
Ugh.
ease. And apparently,
Yeah.
the producer, John Peters, was pressuring her to do a Playboy layout to
Ooh.
help promote the film, which she really didn't want to do. And I think Harold Ramis was kind of helpful in that. And he was like, okay, yeah, no, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But I'm like, ooh, man, John
Yeah.
Peters sounds like a freaking pig.
Yeah. A lot of
So,
Different time. Different time. Yeah.
Different time. Yeah, I guess that was a lot more tolerated in like 79, 80. But
Yeah.
you know,
And
not like today where everything's a-okay with women.
yep, we solved it.
Yep, fixed everything.
That's right.
You're welcome,
You're,
ladies.
you're welcome, ladies.
Yes, would it kill you to say you're welcome? Thank you, ladies. Yeah, it's like like when you read back into the history of how this thing got made, it's definitely you hear stories like that. Of course, the cocaine use was just rampant.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I joked about it at top, but like no. Everybody was doing the China White.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing this excerpt from like there's been a book about the making of this movie, um, and and like even Rodney Dangerfield, like one of the actors, the guy who played Tony, says, "I'll tell you a story about Rodney. I had a tray with my weed, and I was walking through the hotel lobby and saw Rodney. He said, 'I love weed. You know what I love more than weed? Coke.' I thought he was doing a bit, but we found out he wasn't. The only person who didn't take drugs on the movie was Ted Knight."
Yeah,
And like apparently like they were just like at lunch and they'd be like, "Hey, do you want to do a line?"
yeah. Like apparently after filming, after every day that they wrapped filming, the cast and crew would just party all night. Took it,
Hmm.
and like then it took its toll because the next morning everybody would show up late for morning calls, hold up filming for hours, and everybody would just be all hopped up on the white. And I think even
Yeah.
Michael O'Keefe said, what was it? It would be lunch, and someone would say, "Do you want to do a line?" Yeah, sure. It was no big deal. This was the '70s.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's
I
funny you
found
say
another.
that. So, like 100 years ago,
Mhm.
when I first got out of college, long before I got into stand up, I took a job. I was selling insurance. I worked for John Hancock.
Okay.
And one of my clients, and I partnered up with another agent, and then he had a client, but he brought me in on him. And one of the clients that we had was the guy that plays the doctor. We called him Doctor Beeper, but because
Okay. Yeah.
the dude that's always answering his pager.
Right.
Um, and I was in that dude's house a bunch of times,
Oh,
and
interesting.
he had, I remember clearly, he had pictures, like behind the scenes pictures of Caddyshack, and there was some pretty, bleary eyed looking cast members in these photos. And I remember asking him, like, was making this movie as fun as I would think it was? And he said something like, it was the biggest shit show train wreck he'd ever been involved in, but it was also the most fun he'd ever had.
Wow. Wow.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I found another quote from Hamilton Mitchell, who played Motormouth, another caddy. I have no idea who that is. He says, "This was really good cocaine. Pure, like they had just beaten it out of a leaf in Colombia, and somebody had carried the leaf to us and turned it into powder in front of us just so we knew how pure it was."
Wow, he went through the
Which
whole process. He knows how it's made.
that is a testimonial.
It's
But
freshly beaten from the leaves of Colombia.
yeah, so 1979 was wild, man.
Woo! Woo! Hot damn.
But
Yeah, I mean, this film had everything. It had like the gopher. It had, of course, the now iconic "I'm All Right" by Kenny Loggins song playing
yeah, we
through it.
haven't talked about that yet. I mean, that's one of the all-time great theme songs. You need a great theme song for your movie. You call Kenny Loggins. You
Yeah,
got this. You got Danger Zone. You got let's see, no, Holiday
Footloose.
Road wasn't his, but I mean, come on, aren't those two enough to assure his immortality?
Also, Footloose.
Footloose, yeah, I knew
yeah,
there was another one I was forgetting.
yeah. I think we talked about in this podcast a while ago about like how, especially in the '80s, like every movie had to have like its own little theme song, like
Yeah.
its own little like Beverly Hills Cop had the Axel F theme, like
Hmm.
Footloose, Goonies are good enough. Like for even Spies Like Us, of course.
Yeah.
Like every '80s
The
movie.
unfairly overlooked Spies Like Us.
Yes, Spies Like exactly. Some of
Dragnet had City of Crime.
yeah, exactly. Like there was a thing in the '80s where, especially the comedies, every movie had its own like official like theme song, kind of. Holiday Road with National Lampoon's Vacation, and
Hmm.
yeah, and this one
Isn't
had
that also Kenny Loggins?
No, it's Lindsey Buckingham. I was thinking
Oh,
for a
that's
half
right.
second it
That's
was
right.
Kenny Loggins, but I mean, it sounds like it could be a Kenny Loggins
It
song.
may as
So,
well be, right? Like,
yeah, it has the same feel to it.
right. And originally, what I found looks like Harold Ramis actually wanted to use Pink Floyd to write the music for this film, but he couldn't get him.
I can't imagine that. That
It's
just sounds so weird to me.
yeah, and but then after an audition, Kenny Loggins came up with the theme song, and he got the job from that. But yeah, we almost
how
had Pink
good
Floyd.
that's how good their cocaine was. That Howard Ramis was like, you know what this golf comedy needs? This American golf comedy needs? Uh, Fucking Pink Floyd.
I want to hear the great gig in the sky as that gopher burrows through the ground.
I don't like them writing original music for it or using existing Pink Floyd songs. I just can't imagine that sound with this movie. It's
Yeah,
so weird. It's so weird. Yeah, yeah. I think Ken's right. We have to write that up to the cocaine.
yeah, that was yeah. Like, Pink Floyd. What an interesting choice.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just bizarre.
very much so. Absolutely. It wow, what a choice. But like it I mean, but the Kenny Loggins does work. You know,
Oh yeah.
for sure. I'm all right. Like I wonder if this was like his first like kind of big hit that like kind of pushed him into the mainstream. I think it might be. If I'm
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't. I'm not up on
No,
all the
I
ups
feel
and downs.
yeah, I feel like in the '70s he had some big songs.
Like he was part of a duo like Loggins and Messina.
Oh,
You know,
you're right.
so
You're right.
I think he'd had some success before this, but it might have been his first solo hit. But
They were the ones that wrote "Smoking in the Boys' Room."
oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
Oh.
that.
yeah. Poison. The one I was it Poison that covered that? Was it Poison or Motley Crue? I don't remember who did it.
It was one of those hair metal bands that covered it. Yeah, and then somebody else had done it before, and I don't remember who that group was either. But wow, that's funny.
Mm, that's very true. Wow, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, all right. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean we did have that one scene in between with Ty Webb played by Chevy Chase and Carl played by Bill Murray. That I thought that one scene that they were in together, I thought it worked pretty well, like for the most part. Like because it is a thing that like of course like they at the last minute they thought, oh, people kind of will probably want to see these two heavy hitters in a scene together
Hmm.
like that, and like of course at the last minute they shot it and put it in, but I do think it works for the most part. I think like seeing both of them and their energy in the scene kind of works for the scene.
It's like the diner scene in Heat when
Yes.
Michael Mann was like, "Oh, I should probably put Pacino and De Niro in one scene together."
Right, right, yeah, because they're apart for most of this movie. Yeah, it's these two giants meeting, and apparently there was some concern about putting the two of them together because they'd had that run in before. Chevy Chase said in the making of Caddyshack book by Chris Nashawati, he says, "We got over everything. The tension was short lived. I have nothing but admiration and affection for Bill. He can still be a surly character, to say the least, but ultimately he's a good guy. Even though I'm the number one star under the title, I'll always think of Caddyshack as Billy's movie." So
Such an
and
asshole. Such an asshole thing.
that's like half nice and half dicky, which is just
see,
Chevy Chase. Yeah,
that's why I was so hesitant to compliment
yeah.
Chevy Chase.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. He talks a little more about. He says Bill's aggressive. He likes to push you in a scene. Says Chase. It just came from him. He was fucking hilarious. I had to do whatever I could to keep from laughing, and I tried to get him to laugh. So when he asked if I had a swimming pool, I said a pool or a pond. The pond would be good for you. That's all winging it. And as I said it, I could see Bill give a little look like he might crack, but he didn't. He's too professional. The scene really defined our characters. Carl really wanted more than he had in life and was happy to see me because I had a pool and a big house. And I clearly wanted less of him. Harold had to stop me and Billy at some point because we could have gone all night. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Huh.
All right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it is sort of like, yeah, they're trying to kind of outdo each other a bit in that scene, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's always cool to see too, especially those two. They were. I mean, I don't know if you could say they were at the peak of their powers, but they were definitely up there. So to see the two of them kind of in a scene interacting with each other, it's definitely. I dug it.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. For sure. Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely like one of those scenes where it's like, oh yeah, this is the two of them at the peak of their powers, and of course, Dangerfield is always hilarious too. Just coming in like this is
hmm
like we said, like this was like one of the first films he'd ever been in, so he wasn't sure exactly how the whole filmmaking process worked. But like when he was
yeah,
on, he was on. I mean, there was that whole scene where at the yacht club where he's like pretty much wrecking everything in the ocean and just end up destroying Ted Knight's boat.
yeah. There's a lot of impressive stunt work in that. So yeah, it's.
Yeah,
I mean, especially considering it's like Ramos's first film, it's kind of impressive that they got all that in.
yeah, like that really. I mean, that whole boat scene with like just people on jet skis out of nowhere and like all these fucking stunts and shit. I was like, whoa, this
People
this
hmm
came out
appear
of
out of
nowhere.
nowhere. People appear out of nowhere all through this entire movie. Like
Yeah,
they're like the final scene, the final
yeah,
the final golf scene.
hmm
Like every hole, there's just more people there that hadn't been there previously.
yeah. I
Like
guess.
when he's shooting the last shot, like all of a sudden Lacey's there, and it's like, well,
hmm
you haven't even seen Lacey this entire tournament.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the implication is supposed to be that like people are getting more interested because they keep upping the bet, they keep doubling the bet. Because it's like, yeah, Judge Smales like finally has it out with Rodney Dangerfield, and they challenge each other. And then Rodney Dangerfield convinces Ty, Chevy Chase's character, to like be partners with him. And then like during the final tournament, Al like injures his arm, so Danny has to step in, and that's if you could say that Danny has an arc, I guess that's it. Because like at the end, the judge is like, "Oh, I guess you don't want that scholarship after all," and Danny's like, "Yeah, I guess I don't."
Yeah, but see,
And
that's one of the flaws where it's like, all right, so like what changed his mind? I guess because he sees that the judge is kind of a dick, so he decides, but
Yeah,
he's always
he said he was cheating.
yeah,
yeah,
but like he's always kind of known the judge was a bit of a dick, right? So
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was not really a secret.
yeah,
So
so like what I don't know, yeah, that part like the whole part with Noonan kind of like his whole like you said, quote unquote arc, which isn't really there. Like it just needed like a
yeah,
little bit more work. It's like, all right, so why did you decide to go against the judge and like sort of throw away the scholarship? Like, did you never really want the scholarship, or was this the
yeah.
last straw because he cheated, even though he's kind of a cheater and a dick?
I mean, even though I don't like the movie much, and I certainly don't think it would help by being longer. I am kind of curious about what was left on the cutting room floor. I think I'd like to read the original script and see what the original story was supposed to be, because I feel like we're only getting half the story in this. And like, interestingly, Harold Ramis doesn't like this movie very much. He said like, "Oh, all I see are the compromises and the things I settled on." So like Doug Kinney was disappointed in the movie. Harold Ramis was disappointed in the movie. Audiences seem to love it though. So
Yeah, that's the one thing where I think you're like from what I saw, Doug Kenny didn't like the movie very much, and a lot of stuff he wrote in, which probably would have fleshed out the Noonan character more, was left on the cutting room floor.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, a lot of people weren't super crazy about it, but the audience still liked it. So it's like, well, does the audience know more than we do, or is the audience just a bunch of dumb dummies that'll, clap?
No, there's so many great jokes. I mean, listen, it didn't
yeah,
it didn't hold up for me. It was my first time watching it since college, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this is a little dumber even than I remember." But
Hmm.
there are still, I think, audiences loved it because it was so incredibly quotable.
Mm.
Yeah, I think for me it's a bad movie with or a not very good movie with a lot of good moments in it. But I don't think it adds up to a cohesive whole, which is like, not the way that Animal House does or Ghostbusters does or the way a classic comedy movie should. But I think there are a lot of brilliant individual scenes and certainly lines. I don't know,
My
I
favorite,
wonder if there's a better edit of this movie somewhere in there,
I think
like the
so.
Snyder cut.
Yeah, yeah. Release the Ramus cut.
Yeah, but yeah,
I picked up on a joke yesterday. So I thought I knew every joke and every line, but I did pick up on one yesterday that I never picked up on before. That it was the only moment rewatching it where I laughed out loud. Where the judge says to Danny, he says, "I've sent boys younger than you to the gas chamber. I
Yeah,
didn't want to, but I thought I owed it to them."
yeah. That's a great line, and Ted Knight
It's a
delivers it
really funny line.
brilliantly. Yeah, and it's almost a throwaway, but yeah, it just really shows that what a not good person the judge is.
oh wow, yeah. Like, and there was also something I kind of caught on this time watching it too, where the scene where uh, Carl, Bill Murray, caddies for the
Mhm.
bishop in that thunderstorm, and then the bishop gets
Yeah,
hit by lightning. For some reason, I always thought the bishop died right there. But then he's in the next scene. He survived, and when he's at the clubhouse, and
yeah,
he's getting stinking drunk, saying that there is no God.
and yeah, he's
Oh,
unshaven. I
oh yeah. Ted Knight
I
was so funny when the bishop was like, I'm a man just like you. And Ted Knight screams, "You're not a man, you're a bishop."
Yeah, I'd totally forgotten that the bishop came back and, yeah, apparently lost his faith after he struck by lightning during his golf game. Um, yeah, that was weird.
It was.
I don't know what it means. I don't know how it adds into the larger picture, but
It's just them saying that there is no God, John.
yeah.
Just embrace the nothingness, and that you know that the Lord and Savior is a fantasy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That sets my mind at ease.
Yeah, no worries. Caddyshack.
Caddyshack. So I don't know. Well, do we have any final thoughts on this film, guys?
Um, I'm trying to think. No, I mean
Yeah, do we recommend it? Do we think it holds up? I don't think it entirely holds up.
I think parts of it does, parts of it doesn't.
Yeah, it's a
I
mixed bag at best, right?
yeah, I would say it's a mixed bag. I mean, like if you want, I guess. I mean, I like I said, like I do would put it. I would still put it in the pantheon of classic comedies, but like only because of the moments that we've all talked about on this podcast and laughed about, like the
Hmm.
like the Bill Murray moments, Chevy Chase moments, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight moments, like everybody that's basically on the poster. Those moments work. The rest of it is it gets kind of like Meatballs, which is another movie we talked about in this podcast, where all the campers in that movie Meatballs are kind of whatever, but when Bill Murray comes on, that's when the movie takes off. So
Yeah,
yeah, this is like that.
it's certainly better than Meatballs because Bill Murray is about the only memorable thing in Meatballs, and here at least we have like four people working at the peak of their powers. We got Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight. I mean, just for them alone, it's worth seeing the movie. But there are
Would
no
you guys
interesting
happen to
caddies.
know? I'm curious. I saw Caddyshack 2 once in my life,
Oh, okay.
which was probably one times too many. But
I've never seen it.
Me neither.
I would wonder, like, I know none of the big stars came back. And
Chevy Chase is in it. Chevy
oh,
Chase is
but
in it.
he's got one scene. He has a cameo. That's right.
Oh,
He's
okay,
got one
okay.
cameo.
I just know that he's on
Um,
the poster. I know Jackie Mason's in it. I know Dan Aykroyd's in it somewhere, right?
Yeah, he plays the groundskeeper. I know Bill Murray definitely didn't come back.
Bill Murray,
Yeah.
no Rodney, no Ted Knight. But I was wondering if like any of the caddies came back, if they tried fleshing out some of
I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea.
I'm not curious enough to like fucking watch it again, but I would.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose we'll do that at some point. Um,
Will we?
we're going to run out of movies at some point. I can see it, the possibility of us doing the movie. I'm not relishing the prospect, but
I may have to veto that right here, right now on the podcast. I just because I've never seen it either, but like
yeah,
everything I've read about it is it doesn't instill confidence in me that it could be.
it is universally regarded as one of the worst sequels ever made. So, and that's kind of a distinction. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't think it's good. I've never heard a good thing about it. I don't
Yeah,
think anybody who was in it even likes it, but I know very little about it. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah, that's my worry. Like um, maybe if our fans and our listeners want us to do Caddyshack 2, maybe. But I think there's
I
a
mean,
bunch
we
of other.
listen to the voice of the people.
Yes, this is the democracy.
Yeah,
You guys watch Bordello of Blood? Like, what? How is this?
I mean, yeah, that's true. Like, let's not act like we suddenly have standards, Darren.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, fine.
Like, I don't mind watching like really, really bad movies as long as we don't do too many of them in a row. Like the last time we did like a couple of bad, depressing movies in a row, I remember a few months ago I said to Darren, I was like, I don't care what we do next, just as long as it's a good movie. I just can't watch another bad or mediocre movie.
Yeah, you sound really broken at that. I was like, oh
Yeah,
no.
I was. I can't remember what two movies it was that got me to that point. I'd have to look at the rundown. But do you remember what those movies were, Darren?
Might have been War Incorporated or no. I'm looking through our stuff right now. I
Yeah,
know War Incorporated wasn't great.
it wasn't great, but it didn't make me despair for humanity.
Oh, okay, I remember.
What was
We
it?
watched Spring Breakdown, and
Yes. Okay.
then we watched Black Sheep.
Yes, that was the combo. That was what did it to me.
Yeah, and then you just wept openly.
Yes, I was
Like,
broken as a man, and also the thing I really hate about Black Sheep is because I watched it on HBO Max.
oh, that's commercial.
HBO Max was like, "Oh, he wants to see more movies like Black Sheep," and so now like Tommy Boy is in my recommended movies every time I go on HBO Max, and oh, it's the worst.
HBO Max is HBO Max is like, oh, he likes garbage. Hey, maybe
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
want to see more
I
trash.
I threw off the algorithm.
Yeah.
It's depressing.
But yeah, Caddyshack 2. I don't know, man. I don't
We'll
know.
work our way up to it
Maybe.
or down to it, whatever it was. Yeah.
I'm looking at the cast, and it's like you said, Dan Aykroyd, Jackie Mason, but it's got Diane Cannon, Randy Quaid, China Phillips. Like, there's people you know in it.
China from Wilson Phillips?
Yeah.
Huh.
From no, not from Wilson Phillips. Yeah, the mom, the mom from the.
Oh, the one
Mamas
who's
and
in
Papas.
the Mamas and Papas. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I was
Yeah.
about to say, from Wilson Phillips is in this movie? Huh.
Oh no! Wait! Yeah, Wilson Phillips. Oh, she's the daughter of the Mamas and Papas. Yeah, China Phillips is in Caddyshack too.
That
She's like the blonde in Wilson Phillips, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was the only hot one.
the redhead was all right.
I will stay diplomatically silent on the attractiveness of
On that
the
note,
Wilson Phillips ladies. I don't know. I'd have to look at a picture of them.
Oh boy. And that's the episode, guys. Thanks for
Yay! We're split on the attractiveness of Wilson Phillips. That's our big takeaway from
Yeah.
Caddyshack.
Yeah, wow. This podcast took a turn.
yeah, this was. I'm sorry, guys. This was just me doing my best not to get invited back to the Caddyshack.
No, you're committed now. Ken.
Yeah, now you gotta be back for that.
We can't have Bordello of Blood be the worst film you've watched for this podcast.
I have to say, like now, I'm so angry that I'm admitting this, but now that we're talking about it, there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe see how bad it was.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Oh.
I thought you were going to waver on one of the Wilson Phillips women.
No. I stand by what I said.
Okay. All right. Please, listeners, let us know your thoughts on Wilson Phillips.
Let us know your ranking.
Yeah.
Oh boy. That's the episode, guys. Thanks for listening as always. Caddyshack. I say it's worth a watch. It's not all, it's not all fucking gold, but there is gold in there. I will say that.
I'm like, just watch the highlights on YouTube, and that'll give you your fill.
All right. Ken, any final words on Caddyshack?
No, but thank you. Thank you for having me on. It was fun to watch again. I hadn't sat down and watched it in probably 25 years, beginning to end. I don't know that I'm ever gonna do it again, but when it comes on TV, I'll always click on to see where it is in the movie, and I'll
watch a few minutes.
Hang on to like a commercial break.
Yeah, I'll watch a few minutes and then I'll flip when like the caddies have a scene.
Yeah, fair enough.
You're like, I don't care about Danny versus Tony, like at all. Like at the end of the movie, Tony just suddenly likes Danny for some reason.
No, it's like Top Gun with Viper and Maverick.
Yeah.
Or Iceman and Maverick.
Iceman. Yeah, Iceman. I don't know who Viper was, but
okay. I don't know. It sounded like a right name to say.
Yeah, he was in Animal Shack, I think.
Right. Okay. Ken, thanks so much for being on the podcast again. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Anything you want to promote? Have at it.
Yeah.
Just check out the I Love Rock and Roll podcast.
Yeah.
Wherever you stream them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a great podcast. If you're a music nerd like myself, give it a listen. I was on the podcast when we were talking about after the passing of Trugoy from De La Soul. Great episode. Had a fun time. Give it a listen. Fantastic podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks as always, Ken. Always a pleasure to have you on. And
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And we'll be back next week with, oh my God, Darren, episode 250.
250, we did it. Oh my God, we got to figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah, they said it couldn't be done. They said it shouldn't be done, but no, we've reached 250 episodes of this podcast, and we're gonna try and do something big for you next week. But we're still figuring that out. And
actually, wait, John, you gotta give our handles too, or how to find us.
Oh yeah, that's right. You start because I'm having a coughing fit.
Yeah, you're slowly dying. Well, yes. Anyway, as
I've got the consumption, so
yes. As Trumbull slowly dies, folks, you can follow me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, and Instagram at Darren Credible, DARIN Credible. I'm also on a few other social sites, the Big Sky and
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky, Blue Sky, Mastodon.
You go on Big Sky to talk all about Animal Shack.
Yes, Big Bad Blue Sky. You can find me on there, Mastodon. And as always, you can follow the podcast at SNL Nerds Show.
That's right. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky at Trumbull Comic. That's TRUMBULL and the word comic. Ken, where can people find you on the social media?
Ken Krantz Comic.
Ken Krantz Comic. And that's the last name is KRANTZ.
Yes, thank you.
Ken Krantz Comic. So go look him up and go see him live. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Funny guy.
Yes. Yeah, come see me live. And as a matter of fact, I just got this date, if you don't mind that I'm plugging it.
Go for it.
A few months away, but I will be recording my newest stand-up album Wednesday, 27th at Stress Factory in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Yeah, can you give that date again? I think you faded out a little bit.
I'm sorry. Wednesday, December 27th.
Wednesday, December 27th at the Stress Factory.
It should be on sale next week.
All right.
Nice. Okay, yeah. Well, go check him out. He's a funny guy, and he tears it up whenever he gets on stage.
Just in time for the holidays.
Yep.
Yes.
So make that your little Christmas present to yourself. Go to a Ken Krantz album tape. So, all right. Well, I think that does it for Caddyshack, and that does it for this episode of the podcast. We'll be back next week with our big episode 250. But until then, Nerds out!
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.